have a nice meeting site or a nice website for people to get to and see things and do things. From the agenda for tonight, there are a number of things to pay attention to. The first one on the agenda tonight is our next training camp is at the end of this month. This training camp will feature weathering with both washes and pan pastels. There are people who are already registering for it. It will be from 1 to 5 p.m. on the 29th of this month. If you're interested, you can register through training at piedmontdivision.com, and it will get you into it. The training camp is free. I will be putting together a list of the materials that are necessary for it, and that'll go out and email to everybody who's registered. The next training camp after that will be building a Craftsman wood structure kit. We'll be putting together a bar mills kit. It is quite likely, at least it looks kind of like, we'll actually have instructors from bar mills. That'll be fun. This training camp 2 years ago sold out, and we ran out of spots. This year we will not run out of spots because it will be virtual. So please pay attention to that. Next thing on the agenda, Charlie, I will present your PowerPoint presentation so we can look at the what came up out of the model contest that you had or last month. So give me a moment and I will share the presentation and off we will go from there. Let me start the slideshow for you. So there was a model contest in April of 2021. Take it away, Charlie. Oh, wait a second. Sorry. I forgot. Unmute Charlie. Okay, Charlie. Now we can go back to, are you there, Charlie?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Let me go back to presenting your slideshow. Go ahead. There we go.
Okay, I'm Charlie Mason. I am the AP chairman for the Piedmont Division. And a month ago, we did hold a model contest. It was a little different than our normal contest. This was a drop-in model contest whereby modelers could bring their entries to us. We met at Blue Ox Trains. We had a team of 5 MMRs to do the judging, and we would critique your models, and you would leave knowing whether or not you had received a merit award. You would not know how you placed within the contest. But I would like to mention or give thanks to, let's go back to several people, particularly Steve Funston for making Blue Ox Trains available to us. And I would like to thank the contest judges, Al Chirella, Charlie Crawford, Brian Glock, Jerry McNevich, and myself were your contest judges. And I would also like to thank Jim Datka, who took pictures of all the models. And so you'll be able to see photos of all the contest entries. Let's go to the next slide. Here is Jerry Mitch looking over one of the entries. Go to the next slide. And here's Al Chirella, Charlie Crawford, and myself going over one of the models and scoring it. And so now I would like to announce the results. Next slide. First place goes to Joe Sullivan for his L&N tool shed and HO scale model. Not only did Joe take first place, but this model won a merit award. It was a small model, but very well done. Go to the next slide, please. There was a complete interior. All of the structure was built up as a real building would be constructed. On the roof, there were, and we can go to the next slide, there were the joists that were all spaced the prototypical distance, and very nice model. So congratulations to Joe Sullivan for first place. Second place goes to Mike Cummings for his HO scale hay barn, and it also received a merit award. This is the front view. You can, Mike had hay bales in there, a lift. We can go to the next one.
Okay.
And this is a side and back view of the same model. Third place, we had a tie for third place, and one of the models was Mike Cummings' Bull Gap Freight House in HO scale. This model also received a merit award, and we have a couple more shots of this model. So here's another view of the model. It had a complete interior, a lot of detail around it. And I think we have one more shot.
Yeah.
And this is showing a little close-up of it. But this was a model of a prototype on the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western up in Pennsylvania, I believe. And the other model that also tied for third place, again, was Mike Cummings' model, and it was a model of the Bull's Gap trestle in HO scale. This model also received a merit award, and we have one more view of this model. So I'd like to thank the people who did bring models in. They were all good entries. The next model contest will be October. Hopefully it will be during an in-person meeting, and we'll have more entries in October. So start working on your models now. And like I say, congratulations to Joe and Mike, and I will get the awards and merit awards to those two people sometime within the next week or so. Thank you.
Very good, and thank you. The next person who needs to speak to us is David Orr about the L&N convention. David, I have unmuted you, so if you would like to present to us about the L&N convention, that would be absolutely wonderful.
Okay, I appreciate it, Perry, and I want to thank you so much for allowing us to promote our annual meeting that's coming up this fall. As a matter of introduction, I am Vice President of the L&N Historical Society, and also an ex-employee. I started out with the L&N in 1970 and retired from CSX in 2003. So I have a very deep association with the L&N, having grown up in Nashville, and also with the NC and St. L and Tennessee Central folks that might have interest that's on this call. Let me just congratulate Joe on that awesome model of the L&N tool shed. And the first thing that came to mind when I saw that picture was that smell. and that smell of oil-soaked wood that existed in so many of those tool sheds like that. So thanks to Joe for that, and certainly would extend an invitation if he'd like to display that model at our meeting this fall. I'll also be happy to answer any questions you might have while we're on, but after a year off due to the pandemic, we've set our annual meeting for Thursday, September the 16th through Saturday the 18th. And the headquarters hotel will be the Hilton Garden Inn in Cartersville. So our focus is going to be on, obviously, the Atlanta to Chattanooga and Atlanta to Etowah lines for the L&N. So on Thursday, we will have an open board meeting for members to attend if they so desire. That'll start about 1 o'clock. And then that evening, we're working on lining up clinics for that meeting. And then on Friday, we'll continue that morning with clinics to follow. And then we'll leave the afternoon open for rail fanning, and we'll have a rail fan guide for that. So that people could either do their rail fanning on the old W&A, or they can go up on the O line. That evening we'll have a Railroadiana and model train sale in our company store. In our company store, we're working on having a new horse car baggage car model available from Bethlehem Car Works for that meeting, and that'll accompany our current offering of the Railway Post Office and baggage car combo car that Bethlehem Car Works did for us. So, and if everything works out good, we'll be replenishing our stock of the bay window L&N caboose that was built at South Louisville Shops, and the two Woody cabooses that the L&N had, the Big Woody and the Little Woody. On Saturday, our feature will be the train ride from Blue Ridge to Copper Hill. I'm sure many of you have done that, but several years ago, we held our convention in Athens, Tennessee, and we did the portion from outside Etowah up to Copper Hill and back. So this will be the southern leg of that, so to speak. So we've worked arrangements out with the Blue Ridge Scenic Railroad for that. Our dinner that evening will feature Kevin Keefe, who is a contributor and columnist for Trains Magazine and for Classic Trains. So I'm sure that after dinner speech will be welcomed. Kevin does have some family in the area, and so we will enjoy hearing his remarks. You can register for this meeting if you go to our website, which is, you can just Google the Louisville and Nashville Historical Society, or go to www.lnrr.org, and that will take you to our website, and there's a tab on there for the convention, and you can use that to register. The other thing that I would point you to on our website is there's a 8-minute video that was put together by Ron Flannery and some others with the website that goes into the history of the L&N, has some footage from some old movies. So there's some steam locomotive footage on there. And it also has some footage of a couple of outstanding model railroads from some of our members. And one of those model railroads will be featured at the 2022 NMRA National Convention that's supposed to be held in St. Louis, at least as I understand it. So a guy named Jeff Kubler is involved in getting that has that layout and getting it prepared for that meeting. And Jeff is also one of the primary people that's working on the arrangements for the prototype modelers meeting for St. Louis and Collinsville, Illinois. That's going to take place at the end of July this year. So where there'll be over 600 modelers there, and we'll have an L&N Historical Society table and representation of models from our group at that meeting. I can't help but take a minute or two of your time and tell you that we've announced that we're moving our office and archives and company store to TVRM. And we're doing that in conjunction with the SRHA and with TVRM. It's going to allow us to more than triple our archive space, but moreover, it's going to allow us to set up a much easier public access to the drawings and materials that we have about the history of the L&N, drawings of our rolling stock and structures and so on that are in our collection. And we're totally excited about this. We've already moved about 7 pallet loads of materials to Chattanooga, and we will be waiting on the contractor, TVRM's contractor, to finish renovating the approximately 2,300 square feet that we're moving into. And it's going to wind up being a permanent home for us, for our society, and being able to work in conjunction with SRHA, Carl Armory and George Eichelberger and that group have just bent over backwards to be accommodating with us. And, as all of us people who are ex-L&Ners who are slowly leaving the permanent scene, this will be a way of leaving a permanent collection and legacy to any of you folks who are interested in the L&N. So keep that in mind, and we're also looking for volunteers that can help us organize the collection. So any of you can contact me at my email address, which is dgojag@msn.com. But or you can contact me through Sally, through Perry, or through Mike Tarrant. So with that, Perry, I'll turn it back over to you, and thank you once again for your willingness to allow me to do this.
Not a problem, sir, and thank you for coming to speak to us. Okay. We will get started now with our clinic for this evening. Our clinician for this evening is Larry Smith. Larry Smith has been holding operating sessions for about 20 years, starting in the Atlanta area. He's now in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Along the way, he's managed to become an MMR. Currently, he's the superintendent of Division 10 of the MCR. As many do, he enjoys modeling and the real thing. And tonight, Larry is going to be speaking to us about an introduction to operating on a model railroad using JRMI. So Larry, if you'll give me just a moment, I will pop you into the presenter role and off you'll go.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Perry.
Yes, sir. And you are now a presenter.
Okay.
So you should now be able to go down to the bottom.
Oh,
Yep,
there
there
we
you
go.
go. Yep. You're starting to share content, and there's your content.
Okay. Let me slideshow. How do I start? Should be starting it. Oh, crap. Oh, view show. Oh, okay. Hit the right
There we go.
button. Okay. Yeah, you said 20 years, I'm going like 20 years, but then you mentioned Atlanta. I go, oh yeah, it probably was.
Yep.
So, so tonight we're going to talk about JMRI Operations 101. JMRI is Java Model Railroad Interface. Operations. We all know what operations are. You invite some friends over, you run trains, and you have a good time. It's going to be 101. It's just kind of an introduction to it. There's a lot more on the JMRI website on operations and what it could do and so on. I just kind of want to get you in there, kind of take away your resistance, or take away, the fear factor of getting into something, and kind of tell you how about it and how to get going. So as Perry said, we did operations back then. When I did operations back then, we were making the manifest and the switch lists. I kind of made them up on my own. Just kind of started out and say, we're going to take this train and we're going to run these cars here and there. And I started doing that. And then after about 5 or 6 or so, I'm kind of wondering, did I move that box car here or did I move that box car there? So, and it turned out to be quite a ordeal or whatever, or time consuming to make all the manifests and switch lists, to type them all up to present, which you have to do to give to your engineers and so on. So once I used that, and then when I came up to Kentucky, there was one guy doing operations. He used a program called RailOp, and that was a program you bought. I bought it. I used it. It was kind of very similar to, turns out to be the way JMRI does their operations. We used it for a while. The other guy used it, and then both of us, we had a question. We couldn't find anybody to give an answer to it. So we decided to look into JMRI and the way they operated. And so that's what I kind of do now. It kind of gives me, there's a number of ways you can operate, run your trains on the layout. This is just one of them. I like it because it's kind of easy to make the manifest and switch lists and so on, once you get everything in there and so on. Okay, now to start out this, JMRI is, well, we'll go to the next one. You'll need to download JMRI Panel Pro. Along with it, you can also get Decoder Pro, if you know about that. There's some other things then. It's a free download. Can't beat the price on that, from sourceforge.net. And if you search on the internet for JMRI download, it will come up. And we'll show you the first page on the next slide. There are another couple things here. One is the JMRI users group. You can join that through JMRI users, as you say, they're at groups.io. There's a couple of advantages to this. One is it'll give you a number of emails, and you can tell from them kind of what's going on in JMRI, what questions and so on, kind of give you more idea what's going on. Another reason for it is you can use that to ask questions. If you have any questions about operations and JMRI, you can ask it there. So that's a couple of benefits to doing that. So I encourage you to join that group. Now, when you send out a question to be answered, you will find out you'll get some excellent answers, you'll get some good answers, and you'll get some other answers. But the gentleman down below, Dan Boudreau, he is the expert on that. He's the expert because he's the one that developed the operations pro part of JMRI. And his email is there. I didn't ask him if I could put it out, but that's his email. So I've used him. Sometimes if I had a question, I just email him directly, and he always gets back with a good answer, same day or the next day. Okay, now what we need to do now is go get our JMRI. Okay, here's the download screen taken from the computer. There's more to the screen down below where you can actually get the actual programs depending on what you use. Windows, as it says, it goes for Windows, Mac, or Linux. Probably a lot of you know more about JRMI than I do. There's some number of things on here. One thing is under the latest news, the production release and the test release. It's kind of like a cycle. They have a production release they put out, and that's the one I recommend you're getting. They also do a test release as soon as they put out a production release, which starts to correct some things that might have been wrong in the production release, adding new factors. It's kind of a group of guys who just kind of do it on their own. If you have a better way, you can also join, and you can be part of the development of the programs. So what you want to do then is get the production release. It's 4.22 right now. And once you get it and download it on your computer and open it up, you will get this. Panel Pro, this along the top, you can see file, edit, tools, and so on. As I said, JRMI has a number of things besides Decoder Pro. It comes out on a separate one. Tools, I use tools to tell me where the sensors are, the signals, the turnouts are listed in there. Panels, I use Panel Pro. I'll talk about that later, but you can make a panel editor. You can make a diagram of your layout. That's what I do. So, and there's the operations. There's also LocoNet. You can handle if you have your equipment on your layout, you can handle that. One thing I use it for is before the session starts, I'll go ahead in there, and it has a feature where you can zero out or get rid of all the unused slots, which kind of helps out. There's a debug, a feature in there. At the far right, there's a help feature, which is good. If you can click on that, look for general help, and one of they got a search feature. If you search under operations, you'll get a whole bunch of lists telling you about how to do operations. So that is a nice feature also. If you know, well, I don't know if you noticed, I've got version 1.12. And the version right out now is 22. I'm about 5 behind. I need to update. Sometime I need to update it. I mean, you know, it's workable. I can use it now and get what I want. But as you go along, they add new features, new things. So the updated versions would have that. Now, the next thing is we're going to click on the Operations tab here, and that'll lead us into the topics under Operations. There are 6 of them, and they kind of go in order. You kind of have to take them in order to get that, because, you know, in order for trains, you got to put some of the other stuff information in before you can go and get your trains going. So we'll start at the first one is Settings. And here's what it looks like. Some of the things you put in, railroad name, I put in my railroad name, direction of travel for your trains. You can do east, west, or north, south. You have to put one in, and you actually can put both of them in. But under scale, put under HO. Maximum train length you can put in. I think I upped that up. On mine, you can put in locomotives also to handle. You can also put in cabooses to handle. I have not done that. I do not, you know, I don't think I will be doing that. I figured, you know, I'd have enough problem handling cars. I didn't need to handle locomotives and cabooses also. So I leave the locomotives out. I write on my manifest which locos you can use to give you the decoder, that information. And I tell my yard masters, give them a lot of freedom. If they want to change it, they can. When they're making the train up, I suggest one. If they want to use another one, that's fine. Horsepower per ton, that relates to the locos. I think when you find out later on, if you use the locos, it's going to assign a weight in tons to each car. And when you make a train up, it's going to sum all those up. And if it happens to be more than what one engine can carry, it's going to suggest you have put another locomotive on there. Switch time and travel time. That's an average. I just put something in there. You do have it will give you the time on this. I use the time to kind of to start when the locomotive is supposed to leave, or leave the yard after it's made up. I kind of put them in descending order, so I know which ones are supposed to go first and so on. I turn my clock on at the start of operations, and that's probably the last time I look at it. But the switch time and travel time it gives you so much time to switch. You're at a location. It'll also tell you the travel time, how much traveling between certain locations. So what this does is, when it comes to on the manifest, you'll see arrives at a certain thing at a certain time. So it's using those numbers and all to get those numbers. We don't really pay attention to it, but it has it in there. There's a lot of things that you can do. It's kind of options in this as we go along. And I haven't done all of them, but some of them. Car types, descriptive, flat car, caboose, or you can use the other codes. I'm not familiar with the other codes. I use descriptive. Length, unit of length, feet I used. Optional year. I didn't put that in I have not put it in. I think it relates later on. When you put in the cars, you can put in the date the car was built. And I think if you try to build cars that are after your date of your layout, it won't allow you to do it. But that's kind of a different feature if you don't want it. The options, add operations menu to main menu. I click that. That's why you saw it on the one before here. That's why operations was on there. Close windows on save. That's an option. Auto save and auto backup. Auto backup, I'd strongly suggest you use that. And the auto save, it'll save you by date pretty much, or as it goes along. There was one time, well, maybe two times, when I screwed the whole thing up, operations up, and I couldn't do anything with it. And I had to go back and restore it to a past date to get the thing going. Of course, you lose a little bit of info, but at least you got all the stuff in there. And options, add operations menu to main menu, you can do that. The other thing below this is kind of relates to, I haven't used it. JRMI will give you like a little diagram and show you where your trains are and your locations and so on, and your colors and so on. I have not used that. I've been using back you saw it in the beginning where the panel was, the panel editor. It gives you, you can draw a diagram of your layout. My guy who's dispatcher wanted to be in a circle, so I've got it in a circle. It also would include detection. It turns red. You can control the layout. You can control the turnouts on it. So that's what I use. It's not really an operation, but the way I do it, I want to try to use the dispatcher, have him control the movement of all the trains on the layout. So that's what we're trying to do. And if I get the signals working as they should, I can do that. Okay, here's the first one under setting. Then we'll go up into tools. And one of the things under tools is the manifest print options. Maybe I'll go to the next slide for a minute and come back. All right, this is to kind of show you what it is. This is what one of your manifests will look like. And you see up at the top, we put in CXX. It put that in there. There's a point we can put a comment in. That's all there. In here, all the pickups are in blue, the setouts are in red, and it tells you where to go around the layout. This is kind of example of what a manifest will look like. And let me go back to the other one. This is where you're going to control what it looks like. And your font there, font size, you can pick that up. Message format, standard or tabular. You can either, that was the standard format I showed you. You can make it in tabular, which is in columns. I'll show you that in a minute too. Portrait, there's your pickup colors and your set out colors. You have about 150 choices for colors. And then your locomotives, I don't use that. Pickup card message format. I've got pickup and set out. You can use pull, I think pull and spot if you want. And that comes on the manifest, and you can pick what you want. There's also a local move. I haven't used any local moves on the railroad yet. That's kind of like if I had a coal mine and I was switching inside the location of the coal mine, I could use local moves, had its own switcher there, and that would be, and if it moves cars around, that would be a local move. Or also if I had a big company industrial park, I could maybe use it in that case also, but it has its own colors. Switch list, same as manifest, same way it's going to look as the manifest do. I've got departure times on it, valid and so on. You can use different formats and so on. Manifest and switch. I used it. Well, I clicked on text editor one time, but it didn't give me the colors and the look that I wanted, so I haven't used it. A logo, if you have a logo, if you go out to the internet, pick up a logo, it'll put a logo on your manifest also. And you can have a comment here about any misplaced cars. Another thing under this, okay, we'll go to this. It shows you that one. This is the standard format. And this is the column format. And you can see they're in columns here. You may have to do some adjustment on make them line up more. I guess I could mention, you can even make your manifest look like your favorite railroad if you want. All these things that are on the manifest are all variables. You can put them in Excel, and you can make them. You can make a manifest like like a certain railroad or so on. Or if you're switch list, eventually you can do that too, and make them like a switch list. I remember looking at switch lists, that place outside Atlanta on the eastern side, and sometimes I wish I would have kept a copy so I could have copied it or done something with it. But that's kind of in the future there. Okay, this is under the build reports. Which is the one, if you go to tools, this would be one of the things underneath, options underneath there. Just showing you this for a couple things. When we go to build trains, there are going to be a manifest, it will produce a manifest, and it will produce a build report. Both of them are important. If I go up and build a train, if the manifest is what I want, it's got enough switching on it or whatever, goes around the right way, the build report I just get rid of. If the manifest is not what I want, then I go to the build report, because that'll tell me why it happened that it didn't build right. And they suggest you use very detailed on here for your build report. That's what JRMI does and Dan does. To talk about the thing about manifest and your build report, I could relate a story about the maximum train length. I forgot, I put in some number, I guess, originally. And I went to build some trains, went to build a coal train. I have 12 coal cars. I started to build the train. I got 10 cars in the train and no more. And I'm going like, well, what's the matter with the program? Can you see there's 12 trains there? So I did it again, got the same result. Then I got a little smarter and went to the build report. On the build report, you can look at it. Build reports, they're about, you can go 15 or so pages for this thing. They give you about everything you want to know about it. But when I looked at it, I saw it had picked out the coal cars. It was adding them to the train. It got the 10th one, and then it got to the 11th one, and it said it could not add it because the maximum train length was exceeded. So that told me what my mistake was. So I just went back. You can go back. I went back to this page, the settings, and up the maximum train length, and that solved the problem. Okay. Now we had an order. The first thing we go through is locations. These are all the locations I have. All these have some sort of switching to it. So I just put them in here. You can see the names on there. They have tracks of spurs and yards. They also have classification, track interchange, and staging, which they don't recommend you use right off until you get used to the program. So the way I do it, I have my yards in. I have locations where I switch, where the spurs are. I have a couple yards that the trains go out of. Now the next thing is there is length. This is length in feet. I went around, in order to put this in there, I took one of the HO or one of the rulers and went around the track and just kind of eyeballed and figured out what the length should be, and maybe added a little extra to it. You want to try to be pretty close to it. If you start getting too large, your train may put more cars on the track than it can handle. On the next one, it's used. These tells you how much of the track is being used at the moment. The next one, how much rolling stock is on it. You see the yards have more on them. Pickups and set outs for that location. We don't have any in now because we haven't built any trains. If I had some trains built when I did this thing, it would fill in the pickups and set outs. Action, yard master. What that does is, if you do have some pickups and set outs there, if you hit the yard master button, it will tell you what cars are there, what cars are going to be picked up, and so on for that location. So it'll give you a little more information. The next one is the edit. I'll pick on the edit. We're going to pick out for United Industrial Park, and we're going to edit that one. Actually, to show you more how to do it or whatever. Okay, the United Industrial Park. JMR has this thing about, if you want to edit, you put in the name, and then you got to hit save location before you can put any other information in. But once you do that, you can add your other stuff, and it comes up. This location is serviced by trains traveling, and then you put that in. We'll talk about, we'll mention trailing and facing turnouts later on, but that's kind of what you got to tell the program, which is basically what's going to be the trailing switch in this case. So select the rolling stock. So you said here, there's a list. They suggest some. I don't use all of them. I guess if I wasn't, I could be less lazy and go in and take some of them out, but I just left them in. You see they got some for locos too. Box cars are not on here. Box cars are, if you slide that thing up, you'll see box cars. But you'll see gondolas, hoppers are here, and box cars. When I first started out, I kind of for a lot of locations, I kind of allowed it to have a number of car types at it, just so I can get more action or more switching done. Whether or not a hopper would actually go to a certain location. But I'm starting to change it now where I've got at my locations, I'm kind of fixing it into certain types of cars. And I'm curious to see how it will affect the level of activity over time. But here for United Industrial Park, you see the cars. You can just click the cars that you want. You can either clear them all and click the ones you want, or just select all and take off the ones you don't want. Either way. Okay, we got 3 tracks. This location, Industrial Park, we got 3 tracks. They're all spurs. And then you have, these are the 3 spurs that are under the United Industrial Park. And then you've got it broken down for length, use, pickup setups, and so on. And you can see down below, it tells you if you want to add your spurs, you just add spur track and put in the information. And then you got save location at the bottom. Every time you take a change or put stuff in, remember to save it. Okay, now I think the next one is for Lex exporters. It shows you the length, and you can, for this one, it tells you more. You can click or not, just certain ones. I think on some of them, I allowed 3 of them, or I kind of cut out box cars, I think, for the chemical plant. And basically, they may only accept tanks, chemicals. And you've got options. The track can accept all loads. That's kind of getting into custom things. Accept all roads, all whatever UP, all the ones can go there. I'm not fussy about trains or routes for set outs or pickups. I'll use any train to do that. And then if there's a comment you want down here about Lex exporters, whatever it might be, set them right next to, you could tell your engineer to set them right next to a certain part on the track, if you wish. Let me see. Next one is, okay. Now that we've got in locations, it kind of goes in a way, because you see on here on your cars, it is, location is on there. So it has a drop down. So once you get the locations in, you can fill that out with. If I started out, this thing would be blank, no cars in it. And I'd have to go down to at the bottom and say add, and it would come up with the screen, we'll see soon. And you can put the information in. You can see you can sort on different things. You can see the upper caret under type. I've done the auto that way. I've sorted it on that. You got the number in there. You got the road in there. Load. It's either empty or loaded. I don't really pay attention to it. Kernel. Kernel refers to, you can, like my coal cars, they all stay together. I could put them in a kernel and it would be only 1 move instead of 12 moves. I haven't done that yet. Gives you a location of where it is. You'll see it's like the unit yard, and also in the parentheses behind it is the track in the unit yard it's on. In one of the ones under destination, you'll see that I've got a unit yard going from unit yard -1 to unit yard. I guess now's the time to mention that. You'll see where the -1 does not put on your manifest. Basically, I had a problem with my passenger train. I have about 2 sets. I have trains that go all the way around the layout. I also have trains that do a lot of, or do switching. I have guys that, like either one or the other, so I try to make trains that do both. With this one, I had a passenger train, and I wanted it to go out of my unit yard, go all the way around the layout, and come back and go back to the unit yard in the same yard, because it all fits on one track. So I started out making a train that way and went from the unit yard and on that track, and it went around. I gave it, other locations to put around. They suggest you add other locations around so you kind of know where it's going, or your engineers will kind of know how to follow the track around. And it comes back into the same one. So then I pushed on the train, and when you press on the train, you push the build report, and you get the manifest and the build report. Well, nothing moved. It didn't go. I'm going like, well, I finally looked at, after running it again, that didn't work. Got the bill report, and it kind of said, dummy, you're moving the train into one spot. You're going back the same, since you're not going anywhere, we're not going to sit, we're not going to do it. So, okay, well, actually it didn't say dummy, but I just kind of thought that. But what I had to do then is, they use that -1 a lot sometimes for locations. So in my unit yard, I made another location called unit yard -1. Now, to the computer, it's two separate places. But on my actual layout, it's only one place. But it allows me to get the train to move because I go from the unit yard into the unit yard -1 on the same track, and then it will run. So that's one way of getting, if you get in that situation, that's one thing you can do to solve it in that case. Under train, we don't have any trains made up, so in that case, it would tell you which train, that car would be in if we had a train set up or running or made up with that car in it. Movements, that's for the number of moves. It keeps track of the number of moves for the car. You can look at it, but what value it has is the program will tend, if it can, it will tend to move those cars which haven't been moved that often. And I found out the same thing goes for locations. It will tend to, if it can, use locations it hasn't used that much. So that's what that's for. I sometimes look at it, but don't do much with it. Set, we'll get a set screen in a minute. Edit, we'll get the edit screen in a minute. You can edit the things about it. If you start putting cars in, you hit add, you should get this screen here. It may say edit car because this one's already in. Okay, information, the road, whatever the road is, reporting marks. It has a drop-down list, and you can pick out a railroad for your car. If you're one of the ones you have your own on your cars, own layout or own train or own company, there is no problem. You can go over to the edit, click on that, and you can enter what the reporting marks for your railroad are, and that will add it to the list. And you can add that and have your own car in there. Road number, that's kind of obvious. That has to be unique, although if you have, like I had, 3 different boxcars from Southern with the same number, you can use that -1. You can put in that number, and then you can put in that number again with a -1 and a -2 if you have another one, and it will accept all of them. Type auto carrier. I've got auto carrier here. There's a drop-down menu, and all the cars under the type are unique. I mean, a flat car for wood and a flat car for steel are not the same. Now, I had an occasion, you can make up your own car types also, which is kind of a nice feature. You can just go over to edit and type in a new car type name. What I use this for was I have a auto plant, and the auto plant will receive, I also have some box cars on the layout, which are the larger ones, which go to the auto plants, carry the auto parts. What I did was I went in and for those 3 cars, I put in type auto box. And then I went to my location, which is the auto factory, and only allowed auto boxes there. So that means that when my trains run and they locate cars, only auto boxes are going to go to my auto plant, which makes sense. So that's one way you can put in, if you have an occasion where you have a certain type, you know, maybe even with coal cars, you can make a coal car followed by a E and a coal car followed by a L for loaded and empty. And you can keep those two cars distinct if you want. And, you know, that's why you can keep track of them in that case. Under this type, passenger, if it's a passenger car, you can click that. It will tell you, well, on your manifest, it won't treat it as, you know, going as a freight thing, but it'll also allow you to pick out where in the train you want it, from 0 to 100. If you pick out 90, you can put your observation car at the last. If you put in 10, your baggage car will be put in the front when it makes the train up. Caboose, if it's caboose, you can do it. The only thing is your facility, your locations, both locations have to handle the caboose. So, you know, pick it out. It picks the one out for you. I've got a list. I've got about 6 in a row. I just tell them to pick up the one on the yard masters, to pick up one on the end. I give them a lot of freedom. They've been doing, I figure they got a lot of work to do, but they've been doing pretty good with it. If he has a car have a Fred, you can check that. That'll put the car at the bottom, at the last one of your train. If it's hazardous, you can click that. It'll give you it'll come up on the manifest that you have a hazardous car in your train. The length, I put the length in. That helps the program out in terms of, you know, where and putting cars, and if you have enough length, if you have enough traction and all. One thing about the length is, if you have, it's actually 89 there. Actually, they add 2 feet on each end for the couplers. So actually the length of this car is actually 93 feet. Where will that make a difference? If I've got maybe one place to put an auto car, it's only got 90 feet in it. If I say it's only got 90 feet, it'll never put that car on there because it's longer than the space on the location, and it won't put it in there. So if you got like 100 feet and you want to put 2 50-foot box cars on there, that won't work. You'll have to, because they put an extra 4 feet on it, you'll have to go to at least 108 in order to get those 2 box cars on there. Another thing is the weight. As soon as you put in the length, it'll calculate the weight for it. Also calculate the tonnage. I mentioned that earlier. That's used earlier for the locomotives. It'll add up all the cars in your train and see whether or not you need another loco or not. Location and track, then you can put that where it is on that case. Optional color, it has a pull down for colors. For load, I kind of ignore that. Kernel, it's not in. Build, you can put in the build date. I don't use it. I don't put in the owner either. The comment, I put in that to tell which kind it is. Basically, on the colors and the length and the type, when it tells you to pick up something, it'll give you the information that you need, that you can go and see which car it is. You know, the color, UP, boxcar, green, and so on. Under comments, sometimes I'll put in things like has a silver handrail or silver railing on the top. It has a flat car, has a load of wheels on it, just to kind of, for some of them, not all of them, just kind of tell on some of them a little more identification if I think I need it, and so on. And save down at the bottom. Every time you do it, save it in this case. Now the 2 choices were edit and also the set thing here. The set thing here is, well, we can mention out of service. Some cars I don't use anymore, put them out of service. If you're going to do it, I'll find out it takes space on the railroad, go to a location in the track and put it on blank, or else it'll take up space on your track. Some railroad cars I know I'm going to use, I don't going to use at the time. You know, I'll just put them on some track I didn't use and so on. Return when empty, they do a lot of things in the program. Is also about custom loads and schedules. May mention that you can make up custom loads for your box car. May have you can tell it what certain load is in there. Schedule, you can tell it what day to pick it up, what railroad you want to pick it up with, and so on. Thing is, all that you can use it. It's probably more specific, maybe more prototypical, but it's also going to lessen the volume of activity you have on your railroad. So I haven't done it. I did try a schedule with one spur on one location now, and we'll see what happens. Final destination and track. I use that sometime. I use that for my passenger cars, my coal cars. I give the final destination and track. If they're in the unit yard, I'll tell it to track in the unit -1 yard, just to make sure they're going to go there. I do that in some cases. If I might want to make sure that car gets to that spot, I'll put in final destination and track. Okay, I think that's all about cars here. Locomotives, I don't use locomotives. That's what a blank screen will look for. If you got locomotives, you just go down to add and add in the information to it. Okay, I guess I probably all know about failing and trailing switches. Trailing switches are always easier when you're doing switching. On my locations, I keep track of, for all the locations, whether you're going east or west, whether it's a trailing switch or a facing switch. And when I make my manifests or routes out, I only pick up trailing switches for the direction it is. I guess some of my engineers know how to handle facing switches, but you got to do some running around on the railroad. When I'm trying to organize where trains going, all kind of people going this way and that way, is kind of adds to more confusion. So I don't do that. I just try to keep them all trailing. Okay, here are the routes. I got a bunch of routes. Routes are basically any place you want to go, take your train to go. It's from one location to another, is basically what it is. In some cases, it may be in the same location, and you can have a switcher and do local moves. But in my case, I've got a number of, it's a variety of things. I've got the ones Coltrane. If you look down on Coltrane, West Loop, starts in unit yard, it ends up in unit yard -1. Another route is taking it back the same way. The next time I have operations, I'll run in the Coal West Loop back route, and it'll take it back to the thing. So that way I can just do back and forth and not having a lot of changing things. Under that, you see East Loop, East End. What I do, well, for me, what I do is I've got two yards at opposite ends of the layout. I send out trains both to the east and the west out of the yard. I then go through and set up those locations where they can switch, and trailing switches they can switch. As they say, sometimes I put in other locations just along the way so they know they're going the right way. I don't know if they pay attention to it, or maybe they do, or sometime or not. So for the east end, I go out the east loop. I've got also east end, east loop 2. In that case, I started out with I started putting all the trailing locations in one route. And then I found out some of the engineers, they were taking the whole time to do all the switching and so on. And I didn't really want that. Even after time, you had some of them working to complete all the switching after about everybody had left. So what I did was I kind of broke up some of the locations on there. So the East Loop will have some locations. The East Loop 2 will have some of the different locations, maybe one in the common. And you can see out of the east end goes west, Goodwin west, Goodwin east, and so on. I do some other specialized auto plant special. That's why I go to the auto plants and get those auto box cars and put them in another place. I have intermodal, same thing. They go out and go east back. I've set it up for, switching. I set it for certain cases. You can kind of play around with that to see, how you know, for your you can start out, make some routes and see how it turns out. Backlink status under, I think under edit. Well, we'll go to, okay. This is under edit route. For this one, the auto plan special. I put a comment in there that's printed out on the manifest. That kind of tells them what to do. It kind of tells me what the train's going to do also, because I'll kind of put that on my sheet I make as kind of a crib thing to tell what all trains I've got running. I make about 12 to 14 trains for each session. May not run all of them, but at least I've got enough. For this plant special, what do you do to start out this thing to put them in? You go down to a location in the corner and pop up one of the locations and add location, and it'll add it to it. And you keep adding you'll keep popping up locations and keep adding locations, and you can and it'll give you what your route is right here. So starting in the east end yard, goes to horizon going down, and so on in this case. You put your train direction on there. You can put them all in one. I used to call turns when they go all the way around the railroad, but turn is really when you go out and go back on the same route. You can, it's kind of cute. I tried it with you, make an actual turn where I sent it out like west, and then I went to a certain location and it'd been west, and I put in the location again, same location, and had it east. And then added up and then put some locations east along that route. So you can, that also depends on how you can turn the train around or whatever, but you can make an actual turn that way. You don't all have to be in the same direction. The moves, this is how many moves you want. I put in 3, there's 3 cars there, so I'm going to pick up 3 moves. When it's picking them up, it's starting out here in the east end of the yard. I'm only going to allow pickups. Only yes for pickups, no set outs, so that'll only pick it up. Along the way, there's a busy place. Sandy Plains is a busy place. I'll give it some more work to do. I'll give it 5 moves. It can either pick up or set out, depending. Same way with Goodwin. That's one of the yards. That's one of the locations. Some of the trains go around, drop off cars in the yards also. That's a valid location. And so you can do there. NS, we don't have any moves there, but I said you could have pickups or setouts. Probably I could change that sometime, but it's not going to pick up anything there, so it doesn't matter. And then there's East End Yard, no pickups, only setouts. I didn't show you one, on some of my trains, I only put about 7, 8 cars in it. So on the moves, on the beginning, for the yard, I only say about 7 moves, maybe 8 moves. Coal trains are more or whatever, but I only put about 7 moves. That means I'll get at most 7 cars in the train. Now, there's no guarantee that I'll get 7. I won't get more than 7, but I will get 7 or less. It all depends on the program. If there's a car type, if there's a location that'll take that car type and it has a space and there is space for it on the track, then that will pick the train up and it'll take it around. So you may, even though you ask for 8, you may get less than that. And if you can settle for 6 or 5, that's fine. Also, well, I forgot the other thing. That's the number of moves it has. There is a wait feature. If it goes to a spot, you can have it wait till the next time for it to move. Maximum length, I don't pay it. Gradient, this is for locomotives. If you got a hill, you can put it in the gradient. That has an effect on the locomotives, X and Y, where it's located. I don't do that. Comment you can add in there. Sometimes I'll add a comment in there, like, once you finish switching at Goodwin, sit there until the train goes by, or you get word from the dispatcher. Just to tell them what to do at a certain location. Up and down, if I had this thing already done, I want to add another location to it. I just go down to location, put up the new location, add location. Then I go down, add location at the end of it. Then I just go down here to up and so on, and just move it up to where it belongs in that case. All right, that's for the edit route. Oh, that -1, even there's even got that thing with you can put, in this case, I could put Midway or Goodwin in twice, and one time if I want to get like 10 moves, I could have, I could say, I want 7 pickups. I could say Goodwin, have 3 moves and just allow pickups. I could have put Goodwin in again, have 7 moves and just say set outs. And that would be, and I could do it that way. This random feature I could mention, I mentioned it, I haven't done it. It allows you, I guess they said if you ask for 10 cars, you always get 10 cars. You get bored with that. What you can do is go to random and say like, it goes from 0 to 100. And if you put in 50, that means, and this, whenever it goes there, it picks out a random number, and you can either pick up, it'll either pick up 6 cars, 7 cars, 8 cars, 9 cars, or 10 cars. It's random. So that's what that means. Now we're in the routes. Now we're about to the last thing, which are trains. Here's the set of trains I use. I got my mixture of cars that go right around the layout and go back to the same spot. A lot of the intermodal do. Passengers do. Sometimes I have passengers where it will switch at one of the yards, just kind of for a little variety. And certain ones like auto carriers, that's just kind of a specialized thing. In this case now, the routes and the trains, a train can do more than one route, and a route can affect more than one train. It's not a one-to-one it's not a one-to-one correspondence in that case. And can you go down here to add your trains, and you give it a name, then you save it, and then you give out more information to it, which we'll see in a minute. I guess we mentioned here, when I start building trains, they have the build function under here down the bottom, it's build reports and so on. And it's it doesn't have preview in this case. So it should have, when you want to preview things, you click that. And then when you build it, you'll get the manifest and also the build report. I think the next one is train edit. That's one of the trains I go in. You give it a description that prints out departure time. That's what I use. I start out at 1 and then kind of put them in a row. Tells you where it's going to go. East route, that's the route, gives you the route. It's a drop down, so you can change the route if you want. Select car types. I think for this one, it's pretty much everything in this case. It's a switch. It's a thing for switching, so it can pick up about anything to switch. I know there's one time I tried to put up a train. I think the first time I built a train, it had a coal car and a passenger car in it. And then I had to go back in here and take out some of the ones I didn't want to go in the train because that didn't make sense. So this is the way you can build up some of your trains in this case. I think the next one is okay, we'll give you another case of a train manifest for the Goodwin West extra turn. The engine, it says valid, it prints out that it's on its own. There's a description for it. I give it I tell them what engine, what decoder, and so on. Is that you're going west, need a caboose. The guardmaster's got to add a caboose to it. It's just instructions, and please dispatch when finished. Whoops, I don't know if I was back. I think I probably got that. Okay, then we can tell that's a schedule then of where to go to the locations and what your pickups and setouts will be, and also some of the places you're going to pass along the way. Okay, the train build report. This is the one very detailed. I don't know if I got all of it. I think we got about 13 or so pages to this thing. It tells you, it'll go for the train. It will tell you which location has request moves, does not require any locations. It'll give you information like why your passenger car was not selected for your coal train because it's not the right type. And then it'll go through and tell you how many cars were found that could go in the train. And then it will tell you why certain trains were not selected for the thing. And then it gets down to the fourth. I guess it doesn't show on this. It shows you what cars are going to be in your train. And since this one, it looked all right. The manifest looked all right to me. It had a bunch of switching. I figured that's okay. So I kept this, and I would have deleted the build report here. Switch list. Now I give out switch lists to my yard masters. I give them a lot of freedom. When the car comes in, the build report, or I mean, the manifest will tell you where to put it on the yard. I tell them ignore that, just whatever's easiest for you. And for making them up, same thing or whatever. So in your switch list, here it lists some of the locations. I always do the yards, the intermodal yard, the unit yard. I just do the yards in that case. And you can also use this in printing out yours. Then you can print out, when you're finished, you can print out your switch list. And there are options here. You can do one location, you can do one page location. That's kind of wasteful unless you got a number of people doing it. You can just hand out one move to the one person. I guess, but otherwise, I just put them all one right after another in there. Here's an example of a switch list. I color coded, well, I put a thing on there so it tells me what it is, or doesn't. I don't know if I can make it bold or whatever. And then you got to switch to, for a train. Goodwin tells you which train it is, tells the yard master what to put on it. Here's when the train comes back. I tell you what cars are going to be on it. Same thing with this train and so on. So it just kind of tells the yard master what to expect and so on. And, you know, they're helping him out in switching because he's the one that makes the trains up. There's another one for the East End yard, same thing. That's some of the instructions we use for the dispatcher. I already printed up the list by the time I wanted to put that. We talked to the dispatcher and wanted to put that in. So, okay, operation suggestions. I don't know if I hit on everything. As they say, JRMI says start small. You know, just go in. Don't go into schedules, the various types of tracks. Just start out with yards, spurs. You know, do small. They do have a demonstration thing within the help that give you a demonstration for the railroad. But just kind of, as they say, kind of start out when you get to know how the thing works, then you can expand and do some other things. I think we already mentioned about how to go around the layout and return to the same spot if you have to do that. We also talked about using the build report. It'll tell you why your train didn't make the way you wanted it. And number 4, I guess, is the way I make it, not the way you have to do it. I do about 6 trains, and then I terminate them and all. I guess I should have mentioned when we got back to the trains, if you start to build it, if you press the button for build and your manifest is not what you want and you don't like the train, go and reset it. Don't terminate it. Reset means it never happened. It goes back, everything on the layout's the same, everything on the computer is the same. If you terminate it, that means the train is completed. That means what's on your computer, what's in the computer as a computer sees your yard is not going to be the same as on your actual layout. And then I've had to go around and do some 050 and whatever to get things back to where it was. But I'll build about 6 trains and terminate them. That means that terminate them, they already ran, things are in different locations. So when I do my other set of 6 or more trains, may pick up different cars and so on. And I kind of like it that way. In a way, there's a lot of it's random to it. I don't like it when it's so determined and random. I don't know what it's going to pick up or how it's going to look up. I like that part of it. So, and that way, in the case if you didn't have a lot of trains out of cars, you could do some trains, terminate them, and then if you wanted some more cars to run or trains to run, you could keep on building trains and so on until you have enough work to do for your engineers. Well, I think that's about the end there. So I'll entertain questions.
Let me go up and unmute people so that they can ask questions. Before we get to the question part really quickly, I wanted to make sure that people understand that on May 15th, North Georgia Live Steamers are having train rides up in Conyers, Georgia from 1 to 4:30 p.m. 5:14 and 5:15 Central Model Train Expo in Easley, South Carolina. Beautiful spot on the planet. Again, on 5/29, 21 training camp, Weathering with Washes and Pan Pastels is a virtual training camp. You can register through me at training at piedmontdivision.org. It's free. I have a material list that I'll be putting together that I will send out to you. And on June 8th of 2021, our clinic will be by Cat's Paw, and it will be 3D printing scale replicas, how it's done. So you've heard about 3D printing and you've seen some of the stuff. It'll be interesting to see how they actually do it. So now let me go unmute people, and people can ask questions if they have any questions. And if you want to type them into chat, you can do that as well.
I guess I should stop sharing, I guess.
Yeah, you can stop sharing if you want to.
Oh, there's the button. There's the button.
Yep. Thank you, Larry. We appreciate that. That's something that I need to
All
get
right.
into on my railroad because I have Panel Panel Pro, but I have not gotten into that functionality yet, and I kind of need to.
Yeah.
Hey, Perry, John Stevens.
Yes, sir.
The North Georgia model railroaders canceled the May 15th.
You want to run that one again because you kind of cut out in the middle of it.
Okay. The North Georgia model steamers over in Conyers canceled.
Oh, it did. Okay, sorry. It got canceled.
Yes.
Okay. Then please ignore the North Georgia Life steamers. It got canceled. People did comment. They think that several people have thought that your presentation was good. Does the program change switches?
No. Well, JRMI operations section will not change the switches. If you go into panel, there's panel editor, layout editor, and layout panel editor. And I use the layout editor, and I have my turnouts, all the turnouts on the main line have tortoise switches, which are connected to DS64s, which are connected with the LocoNet. And I can go on my diagram and click on a switch at my computer here and change it on my layout.
So that's a different section from the operations.
Yeah, that's a different section.
Okay. So Warren, that should answer that question.
But I hope to use that with a dispatcher. I want eventually get the dispatcher to do the signals and do the turnouts and put a train on the siding, so to kind of control the movement.
Yeah, that's what I'm after eventually.
And it does do signals. JRMI will do signals.
Yes, it will. Well, thank you, Larry. Looking forward to seeing everybody next month on the 8th when we'll learn about 3D printing, which is kind of cool technology. Please also keep watching on the website and on Facebook because we're planning our next actual live event in July, probably July 17th. We're going to get together for the first time in more than a year in person and barbecue something.
Ooh.
Yes.
Good.
Perry, I've stopped talking to mute. I wonder if Larry has a few moments to talk about how the JRMI Ops handles loading and unloading.
Oh, it changes, if you've got the spurs, the spurs will change your thing from empty to loaded. If you use staging yards, it will also change that from loading to unloading. Yards will not do it. Classification interchange will not do it. That's a thing I really haven't got into, but you can make, from some people, they'll go out to your spur. Every time you go out to a spur, it'll change from empty to loaded. I really don't pay attention to it, but if you want to pay attention to it, I mean, that's one way that you can have more control of what happens to the cars as you go out on your layout and to the locations.
Interesting.
Got it. Thank you.
But they don't recommend you start out that way, but you can do it. I mean, there's you can make it a lot of very specific in your motions and movements and so on. But I kind of like it where, it's kind of like a lot of things, more things can move and so on. So, because people like to switch, but, does it bother them if a boxcar is at a tank location? I don't know. They may switch it anyways, but for me, I mean, it gets me what I want and I can hand out and so on. Maybe I'll try a little bit more, but of that, but.
And don't eat the elephant all at once.
Yeah, that gets kind of hard.
Hey, Larry, is there a special interest group NMRA for just JMRI operations and stuff?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I was just curious.
Operation SIG. It's for operations, but I don't know whether it's for JMRI specifically.
Yeah, the OpSig, I think the OpSig folks, I think, make use of it, but it's not their specific focus.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was an actual JMRI OPSIG type operations.
That'd
Well,
be
there is the
interesting.
users group.
Just curious.
That Larry mentioned at the beginning of his presentation.
Yeah, they'll talk about all things in JMRI, but and operations being one of them, and using the Operations Pro.
Okay.
Sorry, Walt.
No, I
Well,
was
we're
just
gonna.
curious. I just where we at as an NMRA, if we have a kind of a coordinated group effort that kind of works in conjunction with the JMRI. So
That'd be interesting. I mean, all right.
We'll have to collaborate, Walt.
let's see.
Well, thank you all, and hope you all have a lovely evening. I will probably leave the room open for a couple more minutes, and then I'll shut it down, and we will call it a night. Have a good evening, folks. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Nice
you,
seeing
Larry.
Larry.
Thanks.
Thank you, Larry.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Larry.